The coffee cup hit the flight attendant before anyone even realized what was happening. A scream, a splash, and then the unmistakable scent of burnt espresso filled the cabin. Row 14's Karen, a middle-aged woman with diamond earrings and a voice that could slice steel, was standing now, her face red with fury, yelling something about disrespect and refunds. The flight attendant, a young woman named Ellie, stood frozen with coffee dripping down her uniform. The entire cabin went dead silent. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade. Somewhere in the back, a child whispered, "Mom, are we in trouble?" It all started 30 minutes earlier, just after takeoff. Karen had demanded a first-class seat despite holding an economy ticket. When Ellie politely explained that the plane was full, Karen hissed, "Do you know who I am?" The phrase that made the man in 14C quietly mutter, "Here we go." For a while, things were calm. Ellie went about serving drinks and snacks, and Karen grumbled to anyone who would listen about unprofessional staff. But when Ellie handed her the coffee, black instead of with organic oat milk foam, something inside Karen snapped. She threw it, hard. The liquid hit Ellie's collarbone, and gasps echoed through the aisle. A passenger pulled out his phone. Another hit the call button. Ellie's hand trembled as she stepped back, trying to compose herself. But Karen wasn't done. She was pointing, shouting, demanding that Ellie apologize for her incompetence. At the front of the plane, the captain's door opened slightly. A tall, calm voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. I need everyone to remain seated. We're addressing a situation on board." Karen froze for a moment, just long enough for the seriousness of that tone to sink in. The murmurs grew. Phones were recording now. And Ellie, wiping coffee from her face, walked up the aisle toward the cockpit. Her chin lifted, but eyes glistening. The captain didn't need to ask twice what had happened. 10 minutes later, the plane began to bank sharply. Passengers looked out the windows, confused. The engines roared louder. The captain's voice came again, steady but final. "Due to a passenger incident, we are returning to the gate." Karen's smug look vanished. "You're kidding," she snapped. But no one was laughing. The entire cabin sat in tense silence as the pilot turned the plane around because of her. As the plane tilted back toward the airport, Karen's confidence began to crack. The same woman who had barked at crew members minutes earlier now sat stiffly, clutching her designer purse like it was a shield. Murmurs rippled through the cabin, people whispering, phones discreetly raised, eyes locked on her every move. Ellie had disappeared behind the curtain near the galley, her face pale but composed. The captain had requested she sit and rest, but her shaking hands told the truth. She was rattled. A cup of coffee might seem minor, but every flight attendant knows the rule. You don't touch the crew. That's assault in the air, and the sky doesn't forgive. Karen, however, still didn't understand that gravity. She leaned toward the man beside her, who had been pretending to sleep, and hissed, "They can't do this. I'll sue this airline. I'm the victim here." The man didn't even look up. "Lady," he said, "you just threw coffee at someone at 30,000 feet. The tension was suffocating. A mother in row 15 quietly passed a napkin to Ellie when she walked by again. A few passengers gave her small nods of support. Meanwhile, Karen fumed louder, muttering about poor service and cancel culture. Then came the announcement, "Flight crew, prepare for landing." The descent was rough, not because of turbulence, but because everyone could feel the storm brewing inside that metal tube. Karen's voice was now shaking, demanding her rights, insisting that the pilot couldn't just turn around. But the truth was, once the captain declares a safety threat, their word is law. When the wheels hit the tarmac, the cabin burst into nervous claps, half relief, half disbelief. But as the plane taxied back toward the gate, the clapping died. Police lights flashed through the windows. 2 security vehicles followed alongside. Karen's face turned pale. "Wait, are those for me?" she whispered. No one answered. The captain's door opened again. He stepped out, stoic, calm, and authoritative. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "for everyone's safety, You'll need to remain seated until officers board." Her response was a scream. "This is insane. You can't treat me like a criminal." The captain didn't flinch. "Ma'am, you assaulted a crew member. You'll need to cooperate." The doors opened and officers stepped on board. The passengers watched, phones ready, as the woman who once demanded oat milk now faced the full weight of her own tantrum. The cabin filled with the sound of boots on the floor as two officers made their way down the aisle. Karen's eyes darted between them and the captain, disbelief twisting across her face. "This is harassment," she shouted. "I was just expressing dissatisfaction." One of the officers, a woman with a calm but firm voice, stopped beside her seat. "Ma'am, you're being asked to deplane for questioning regarding an assault on a flight crew member. Please stand up." Karen clutched her purse tighter. "Assault? I barely touched her!" A passenger in row 13 couldn't help but mutter, "You threw a cup of coffee." Laughter rippled softly through the back rows. The officer didn't smile. "Ma'am, please stand up," she repeated. Karen stood, but not quietly. She turned to the rows behind her and raised her voice. "You're all going to regret recording this. You don't even know the full story." But the phones kept rolling, capturing every frantic word. As the officers guided her toward the front, she spun once more toward Ellie, who was now seated near the jump seat. "You'll lose your job for this," she snapped. Ellie didn't answer. She simply looked at her, calm now as if finally realizing that professionalism sometimes wins louder than shouting ever could. The captain gave Ellie a small nod of respect before turning back to debrief the officers. When Karen stepped off the plane, the entire cabin seemed to exhale. Some passengers whispered thanks to the crew. Others silently stared out the window, still processing what had just happened. The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay. We'll resume boarding shortly after this matter is resolved." But the story didn't end there. As ground staff began refueling the plane, snippets of conversation spread like wildfire. "Did you get it on video?" "She's definitely going viral." "Oh, she's done for." Within hours, before the plane even reached its original destination, videos of the incident hit social media. Clips of Karen screaming and the captain's calm announcement racked up thousands of views. The headline was already taking shape. "Passenger throws coffee. Pilot turns plane around." Back at the airport, Karen sat in a holding room, still fuming. Her blouse was wrinkled, her hair frazzled, and her outrage hadn't cooled. "You can't keep me here," she barked. The officer leaned against the wall. "Ma'am, FAA regulations say otherwise." For the first time, Karen had no comeback, only silence. The next morning, the story was everywhere. News anchors replayed the footage of Karen hurling her coffee like a grenade, followed by the captain's steady voice announcing the plane's return. Hashtags like Coffee Karen and your plane turnaround trended across social media. By sunrise, millions had watched her meltdown from the comfort of their homes. Karen, meanwhile, sat in a Stark airport detention office, scrolling through the explosion of videos on her phone. Her once perfect image, the polished businesswoman, the frequent flyer, the one who deserved respect, was gone. Comment sections were merciless. Some called her entitled, others called her dangerous. And beneath every video, the same phrase appeared again and again: "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." Her lawyer finally arrived, sighing heavily as he placed his briefcase on the table. "Karen, the airline is pressing charges. Assaulting a crew member is a federal offense. They're also banning you from future flights." Karen's jaw dropped. "Banning me? From the entire airline?" He nodded. "And probably a few others." News travels fast. She leaned back, her confidence drained. "I just wanted decent service," she muttered weakly. But no one was buying that anymore. Outside, reporters waited near the terminal, cameras flashing each time an officer walked by. Passengers from the flight had already shared their experiences, praising Ellie's professionalism, admiring the captain's decision, and expressing relief that the situation hadn't escalated further. Ellie, meanwhile, sat quietly in the break room. Her co-workers surrounded her, offering words of support. The airline's HR rep told her she'd handled everything by the book and that the company would cover her counseling sessions. She smiled faintly, exhausted but proud. The moment the plane turned around wasn't just about discipline. It was about standing up for safety and respect. Later that day, as she walked through the terminal to her connecting flight, she spotted a familiar sight at Gate 47, a woman in sunglasses, surrounded by reporters, yelling at cameras that she'd been mistreated. Karen hadn't learned a thing. Ellie paused for a moment, then kept walking. Some people never change, she thought. But the rest of the world had already decided who the real villain was. By evening, Karen's video hit 1 million views. Airline staff quietly circulated a memo reminding crew members that professionalism saves lives and sometimes reputations. Ellie returned to the skies the next day, head held high. Karen, grounded indefinitely, would soon learn what it truly meant to be removed from the flight plan. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed seeing karma served at 30,000 feet, make sure to like, comment your favorite moment, and subscribe for more wild true story drama every week.